before words were carved into stone, before laws were bound into books, before heaven was imagined as distant and unreachable. Humanity gathered beneath a living symbol, a tree, its roots buried deep in the earth, its trunk standing firm in balance, its branches stretching confidently toward the stars. Long before Eden was named, the tree of life already stood, not as a metaphor, but as a map of existence itself. They call it the Holy Land, but the roots of the holy story reach deeper south. Across Africa's ancient landscapes, wisdom did not descend from the sky alone. It rose from the soil, breathed through forests, and aligned itself with the rhythms of the cosmos. Here, creation was not chaos. It was order, pattern, sacred design. Life understood as a living system where nothing stood alone. Across time, African civilizations looked at the tree and saw the universe reflected back at them. The roots were the ancestors, memory, origin, and foundation. The trunk was balance, the law that holds worlds together. The branches were destiny, humanity's reach beyond the visible toward the unseen and the eternal. This was not myth told for entertainment. It was knowledge preserved in symbol, passed down through ritual, art, and story. Before Eden, the tree of life had African roots, and its branches reached across the stars. It was a symbol of alignment, not temptation, of wisdom, not punishment, of life unfolding according to sacred order. And long before this image traveled across continents and entered foreign texts, it already carried meaning shaped by Africa's understanding of nature, spirit, and the cosmos. Yet over time, the image moved while its origin faded. The tree remained, in scriptures, philosophies, and sacred stories, but its first soil was forgotten. What was once a living symbol became a distant allegory. What was once cosmic became confined, and the memory of where it began slowly slipped into silence. This is not a story of replacement nor of rivalry between traditions. It is a story of remembrance, of returning to the first blueprint, of seeing the tree of life not as a single chapter in a book, but as a universal structure. One that Africa understood early, preserved deeply, and expressed with extraordinary clarity. To understand creation, we must return to the first design, not written in ink, not carved in stone, but growing, alive, rooted in African soil, reaching endlessly toward the stars. In ancient Africa, the universe was not imagined as a distant sky floating above a silent earth. It was understood as a single breathing system, layered, interconnected, and alive. At the center of this understanding stood a powerful image, the cosmic tree. Not planted in a garden of myth, but rooted in observation, ritual, and deep reflection on how life truly works. To African cosmologists, the tree was the universe made visible. Its roots stretched into the unseen depths, the realm of origins, memory, and ancestral intelligence. Its trunk rose through the human world, the place of order, responsibility, and balance. Its branches expanded outward and upward, into the heavens, where stars moved with intention and time revealed its patterns. Nothing was random. Everything had its place. This was not poetry alone, it was structure. African societies studied cycles, one of seasons, stars, birth, death, and renewal, and recognized that life repeats itself in forms both large and small. What happened in the sky echoed on the earth. What lived beneath the soil shaped what grew above it. The tree became the perfect expression of this truth, a vertical bridge connecting worlds that modern thought would later separate. Look closely and the design is unmistakable. The branching of trees mirrors the branching of rivers. Rivers mirror the veins of the human body. Veins echo the pathways of stars across the night sky. African knowledge keepers did not see these as coincidences. They saw them as signatures, evidence of a single intelligence expressing itself through many forms. In sacred spaces, in art and storytelling, the tree reappeared again and again, not as decoration but as instruction. It taught that life must be rooted to rise, that expansion without foundation leads to collapse, that growth is not rebellion against order but fulfillment of it. To understand the universe, one had to understand balance, and the tree showed how balance was maintained. What modern science would later describe through diagrams and equations, Africa preserved through symbol. The cosmic tree was a living diagram, an organic model of reality itself. It explained how ancestors influenced the living, how humans shape the future, and how the heavens are not distant rulers but participants in an ongoing cosmic rhythm. And this is where curiosity deepens. Because the same structure, roots, trunk, branches, appears again and again across global traditions, philosophies, and sacred texts. The image survives, the pattern remains. But the question lingers quietly beneath the surface. If the symbol traveled the world, where did its first meaning take root? To answer that, we must journey deeper, beneath the surface of the earth itself, into the roots where memory sleeps and wisdom waits. In African cosmology, nothing truly begins at the surface. Every visible thing is sustained by something older, deeper, and unseen. Just as a tree draws its strength from roots hidden beneath the soil, life itself was believed to rise from ancestral foundations, layers of memory, spirit, and accumulated wisdom that time could not erase. The roots of the tree of life represented far more than biology. They symbolized origin, the ancestral realm where the living, the departed, and the unborn remained connected. Ancestors were not gone. They were present beneath the world, guiding, stabilizing, and nourishing life above. To be rooted was to be protected. To be unrooted was to drift without meaning. Across African societies, sacred groves were treated as living archives. These were not ordinary forests, but consecrated spaces where the boundary between worlds grew thin. Trees were approached with reverence not because they were worshipped as objects, but because they stood as witnesses. Keepers of oaths, guardians of truth, and silent observers of generations passing beneath their shade. What happened near a sacred tree mattered because the earth itself was listening. In ritual thought, wisdom did not fall from the sky alone. It rose upward from the soil. Knowledge was inherited, not invented. Memory flowed like sap, slowly, patiently, invisibly, feeding the present from the past. This is why elders were revered, why lineage mattered, and why forgetting one's roots was considered a spiritual danger. A tree cut off from its roots does not grow. It withers. The earth itself was understood as alive. Soil was not dirt, but memory made physical. It held the footprints of ancestors, the echoes of prayers, and the residue of countless lives lived in alignment or imbalance. To walk upon the land was to walk upon history. To disturb it carelessly was to disrupt the delicate harmony between worlds. This understanding created a powerful sense of responsibility. Human actions did not end with the individual. They traveled downward into the roots and upward into the future. Every choice either strengthened the tree or weakened it. Life, therefore, was never private. It was participatory, a shared project between the living, the ancestors, and the earth itself. Yet roots are not meant to remain hidden forever. Their purpose is to support growth, to push life upward toward light and expression. From this deep foundation of memory and ancestry, the tree of life rises, firm, balanced, and visible to all. And so from the darkness beneath the soil, we move upward, to the trunk, where order takes form and balance holds the worlds together. Between the unseen depths of the roots and the limitless reach of the branches stands the trunk, firm, centered, and unwavering. In African cosmology, this middle realm represented the space of order, the place where life is shaped, tested, and aligned. It was here, in this vertical axis of existence, that balance became law. The trunk symbolized structure without rigidity. It taught that strength does not come from domination, but from alignment. Just as a tree stands tall only when its trunk is centered and balanced, societies were believed to thrive only when human behavior aligned with cosmic order. Harmony was not enforced, it was cultivated. African philosophical systems emphasized equilibrium between people and nature, spirit and matter, freedom and responsibility. Disorder was not simply a social problem, it was a spiritual imbalance that echoed through the entire tree. When injustice appeared, it weakened the trunk. When greed spread, it bent the structure. When harmony was restored, the tree stood firm again. This understanding was reflected visually in African art and design. Repeating patterns, symmetry, and measured proportions were not aesthetic accidents. They were visual expressions of cosmic law, reminders that life follows rhythm, proportion, and balance. Sacred geometry was not abstract. It was lived, worn, built, and danced. The trunk also represented the human role within creation. Humans were not masters standing above nature, nor prisoners trapped within it. They were stewards positioned at the center, responsible for maintaining balance between what came before and what would come after. To live well was to keep the trunk straight. Every decision mattered. Words, actions, intentions, all carried weight. A single crack in the trunk could travel upward or downward, affecting branches not yet grown and roots long established. This is why moral responsibility was treated as sacred duty, not personal preference. Life was interconnected and balance was everyone's work. In this worldview, law was not imposed from above. It emerged from understanding how life holds itself together. Order was not punishment. It was protection. The trunk did not limit the tree's growth. It made growth possible. And once balance was established, once the structure stood strong and aligned, life was free to expand beyond the visible world, outward and upward toward the stars themselves. From the grounded strength of the trunk, the tree of life reaches higher, into the realm of branches, destiny, and the cosmic beyond. From a balanced trunk, the tree does what it was always meant to do. It reaches outward. In African cosmology, the branches of the tree of life symbolized expansion, destiny, and humanity's connection to the greater universe. They represented possibility, the idea that life is not confined to the ground beneath our feet, but is constantly reaching towards something larger, brighter, and more mysterious. African sky watchers understood the heavens not as distant lights scattered randomly across darkness, but as patterned movement filled with meaning. Stars were markers of time, guides for agriculture, mirrors of earthly cycles, and reminders that human life unfolded within a vast cosmic rhythm. The branches of the sacred tree were imagined stretching into this sky, touching constellations, tracing paths of time, and linking human destiny to celestial order. In this worldview, the sky was not separate from the earth. What happened above echoed below. The same branching pattern that shaped trees shaped rivers, lightning blood vessels, and the spread of communities across land. Expansion followed rules. Growth respected balance. Nothing reached upward without remaining connected to its source. The branches also symbolized choice and purpose. Each branch followed a slightly different direction, yet all emerged from the same trunk. In this way, African philosophy acknowledged individuality without breaking unity. Human paths could differ, destinies could unfold uniquely, but all remained connected to a shared origin and a shared cosmic structure. This idea carried profound meaning. To grow was not to escape the earth, but to express it more fully. To reach the stars was not to abandon the ancestors, but to carry their memory forward into new realms of experience. The heavens were not a reward for leaving the world behind. They were a continuation of the same sacred order. Across time, this image endured. Long after languages changed and borders shifted, the vision of a branching tree connecting heaven and earth appeared again and again in global spiritual traditions. The image survived because it worked. It explained life intuitively, it resonated deeply, and it felt true. Yet as the symbol traveled, something subtle happened. The branches remained visible, celebrated and retold, but the roots that fed them grew faint in memory. The structure stayed, but its original context blurred. What was once a living cosmic map slowly became a borrowed symbol. To understand what was gained and what was lost, we must look closely at what the tree offered humanity at its outermost edges. Because at the end of every branch hangs a promise and a responsibility. And so we move toward the fruit, where knowledge, choice, and consequence come into view. At the furthest reach of the tree of life, where branches meet light, appear the fruits. In African cosmology, fruit was never a symbol of temptation or downfall. It represented maturity, the moment when growth becomes responsibility and knowledge demands wisdom. To bear fruit was not to disobey, but to fulfill purpose. Knowledge in this worldview was sacred power. It was not feared nor hidden, but approached with care and preparation. Wisdom was not simply knowing more, it was knowing when, how, and why to act. Just as unripe fruit could harm if consumed too early, knowledge without balance could destabilize both the individual and the community. African teachings emphasized readiness. Elders guided the young not to prevent learning, but to ensure alignment. Knowledge was revealed in stages matched to moral development and responsibility. This is why initiation, storytelling, and symbolic teaching mattered. They prepared the mind and spirit before deeper understanding was entrusted. Every fruit carried consequence. To take wisdom lightly was to risk imbalance. To use knowledge without regard for harmony was to weaken the tree itself. Power was never neutral. It either strengthened the structure or strained it. This principle shaped leadership, spiritual practice, and social responsibility across African societies. Here, choice becomes central. The tree of life did not deny access to knowledge. It required discernment. Wisdom was not forbidden. Recklessness was. Awareness was celebrated, but arrogance was cautioned against. The fruit symbolized the moment when humans stepped fully into accountability for their actions. As this symbol moved across cultures, its meaning shifted. What was once a lesson in responsibility slowly transformed into a story of restriction. The fruit remained, but its context changed. Knowledge became framed as danger rather than duty, and curiosity as risk rather than growth. Yet beneath these later interpretations, the original lesson still whispers. Knowledge is life-giving when rooted in balance. Awareness strengthens when guided by wisdom. The fruit of the tree of life was never about loss. It was about readiness. And as symbols travel, meanings evolve. The tree crossed borders, entered new lands, and took on new interpretations. But no matter how far it went, it carried traces of its first understanding. To follow that journey, to see how the tree of life spread across civilizations while its origin faded, We must step beyond Africa's soil and trace the symbol's path across the world. Symbols, once born, rarely remain still. They move with people, stories, and memory. The Tree of Life was no exception. As African civilizations traded, taught, migrated, and interacted with neighboring worlds, their ideas traveled quietly, steadily, often without their names attached. The image of a sacred tree crossed deserts, followed river routes, and entered new cultural landscapes. Across the ancient world, variations of the Tree of Life began to appear. In temples, manuscripts, carvings, and sacred stories, the familiar structure emerged again and again. Roots below, a central axis, branches above. The form remained recognizable even as languages changed and interpretations shifted. The symbol endured because it explained life in a way that felt universally true. Over time, however, the tree was increasingly detached from its original soil. As new traditions adopted the symbol, they reframed its meaning through their own lenses. What had once been a cosmic map became a moral allegory. What had once emphasized balance and continuity began to focus on singular moments and outcomes. The image survived, but its depth was slowly reduced. This transformation did not happen all at once, nor always with intention. Memory fades easily when stories are retold far from their source. As power shifted and new centers of influence emerged, sacred geography was reorganized. Africa, once understood as a wellspring of wisdom, gradually receded from view. The symbol remained, but the hands that first shaped it were no longer remembered. Yet traces of the original understanding persisted. The idea of life as interconnected, the vertical structure linking heaven and earth, the belief that order sustains growth and imbalance leads to collapse. These core principles could not be erased because they were embedded in the symbol itself. Even stripped of context, the Tree of Life continued to communicate truth. What was lost was not the image, but the story of its birth. The tree was preserved in texts and traditions, but its African roots were quietly omitted. Over generations, this absence hardened into assumption. What was forgotten began to feel invisible. Still, roots do not vanish when unseen. They remain beneath the surface, holding, feeding, and waiting. And in moments of reflection, when symbols are re-examined and history is revisited, those roots become visible once more. To see them clearly, we must return, not backward in time, but inward, toward remembrance, toward a living understanding of the Tree of Life as it was first known. And in that return, something powerful happens. Memory is restored, meaning deepens, and the tree, once distant and abstract, becomes alive again. And we reach forward, toward futures not yet written, guided by the same cosmic order that shaped the stars. This is not ancient knowledge locked in time. It is living wisdom, relevant now. In a world searching for connection, the Tree of Life offers a model of unity without uniformity, growth without chaos, and knowledge guided by responsibility. It shows that harmony is not accidental, it is cultivated. Africa did not merely contribute symbols to the world. It offered a blueprint, one that understood life as sacred, structured, and interconnected. The Tree of Life stands as one of its clearest expressions, roots in the earth, balance at the center, and branches open to the infinite. And so the journey ends where it began, not in a distant garden, but in living soil. The tree still stands. It grows wherever memory is restored, wherever balance is honored, wherever wisdom is carried forward with care. If something in this story awakened recognition within you, carry it. Reflect on it. Share it, not for attention, but for remembrance. Leave a comment and let us know what the Tree of Life means to you. Subscribe to Deep in History, where forgotten wisdom returns home and the roots of truth are allowed to grow again.